Good evening. Welcome to Sunday Evening Mysteries. Yay. um, yeah, welcome. I'm doing this kind of late tonight because I've had a busy day, busy weekend actually, and I wanted to make sure that I was able to get to this. So 10 o'clock's kind of late, but next time I'll hopefully be able to do it a bit earlier on Sunday evening. That would be good. Anyway, hello, Sharon Schultz here, also known as the Bay Lady. I do virtual tours around the Chesapeake Bay region of Maryland, where I live. Beautiful area. Love to get out and about, and so that's how I started off. There's also a lot of other things that I like, and mysteries is one of them. And that is how Sunday Evening Mysteries came about. Um, as for my tours, these and others, you might want to follow me on Facebook. It's Sharon Schultz, the Bay Lady, or subscribe to my YouTube channel, Sharon Schultz, the Bay Lady. On both of those platforms, you'll find links to other platforms where my tours are listed, so you can find direct links to go right to them. My tours are live. This is live. And so I try to make it as easy to find me as possible. So, again, subscribe to my page, like my pages, follow my pages, and check that little notify box. And when new tours are posted, you'll be the first to know. Also, on my social media, you'll find a link to a platform called Buy Me a Coffee. And that is if you are interested in supporting my content, expenses, what they are, gas to go here, there, and everywhere, right? Anyway, if you see your way clear to do that, Buy Me a Coffee is the place. Okay, so Sunday Night Mysteries. Gee, what does that mean? What are we going to do? Well, first off, we're going to start off with a little mini mystery. Okay. A mini mystery that you will try to solve, attempt to solve. Um, um, it comes from Mini Mysteries. Uh, this is a little book that you can get on the newsstand in the grocery store, drugstore, whatever. Um, let's see, test your detective skills with this collection of mind bending mysteries. Feel your excitement build as you solve each whodunit, from theft to sabotage to murder. Each 2-minute case contains a clue to finding the culprit. But stay sharp. Misdirection, red herrings, and secret codes abound as the tales get tougher and tougher. Do you have what it takes to become a super sleuth and solve them all? Well, how about we start with one of them? Yes? All right, let's see. We should go to, let's see. This one is called Murder in Cabin Number 3. Murder in Cabin Number 3. Huh, the picture cutely depicts what could be a KOA campground, right? They're camping cabins. That's what it looks like. KOA camping cabins. Woohoo. Okay, all right. Shall we? I'll read the story. Listen carefully. Take notes. Detective Sherry Robbins walked up to the front desk of the Wayside Motel and dinged the bell. The nameplate nearby read Elliott Caves, manager and owner. Can I help you? Elliot asked, coming out from the back office. Mr. Caves, Robin said, I'm Detective Sherry Robbins. I received a call from Adonna Wilson saying she's been staying here and recognized someone who was involved with the First National Bank robbery earlier this week. Can you tell me what cabin she's staying in? Caves took in the Robbins badge and smiled. Of course, he said, Miss Wilson is in cabin 3. Robbins thanked him and left, only to return 5 minutes later. She didn't answer my knock. Do you know if she's there? That's her car, Caves said, gesturing out the window to a black sedan. So she should be here. Curious, Robin said. Her door is locked. Would you be able to let me in? I peeked through the old-timey keyhole but couldn't see. Of course, Caves took a key ring from a peg and led the way to cabin 3. He unlocked the door and pushed it open, allowing Robbins to enter first. Feeling around for a switch, Robbins flicked it on, bathing the room in light. On the floor lay a woman in her 60s. It appeared she had been strangled. I'll call this in, Robbins said. Please stay outside, Mr. Caves. It wasn't long before the crime scene crew was at the cabin. Who else is staying here? Robbins asked Caves. Only 3 other guests, Caves said. Gregory Hardy, Hannah Grace, and Fred Pine. Know anything about them? Only what they told me at check-in. Gregory is the salesman. He's here for a sales conference and has a cabin through Sunday. Hannah Grace is on her way to visit relatives, and Fred is on his way to the mountains to study the effects of pollution on tree growth. That's enough to go off of, Robbins said. Did you ask these guests for identification? Yes, Caves nodded. I scan their licenses before they sign in. Are any of them here now? Caves looked out the window. Mr. Pine's car is here, cabin 2. Robbins left the office and walked to cabin 2, where a man in a robe was leaning out his door. Robbins flashed her badge. Mr. Pine, Fred Pine? That's me, the man said. What's going on? There's been a murder in the cabin next door, Robbins said. A murder? Mr. Pine's face showed shock. Next door? I didn't hear anything, but then I went to dinner down the road. I didn't get back till an hour or so ago. Did you see any of the people staying in the other cabins? Pine shook his head, eyes darting past her as the coroner walked out of cabin 3. I mind my business. Right, Robbins thanked the man and walked to the cabin. How are things coming? She asked an investigator. Not much here, he replied. Victim was strangled. So no chance she'd have her assailant's DNA under her fingernails? Time of death? Between 1 and 3 hours ago. Right after she called us, Robbins mused. Her killer must have overheard her. Got any idea who it was? Robbins gazed at the cabin. Yes, as a matter of fact, I do. The question, who does Robin suspect? Okay, so who are our suspects? We have Detective Sherry Robbins. She's conducting the investigation. She spoke with Elliot Caves, he's the manager and owner of the Wayside Motel. He informed her that there were several people staying at the motel. That would be Gregory Hardy, who is a salesman. Gregory's a salesman there for a conference. Hannah Grace, who is passing through on her way to visit relatives. And Fred Pine, who is heading to the mountains to study the effects of pollution on tree growth. Okay, that's what we got. So tell me, who does Robin suspect? Is it Fred Pine? Is it Hannah Grace? What about Gregory Hardy? Or Elliot Caves himself? Let us see. Okay. Ready? Robbins had to peek through the keyhole of Donna's locked room to see anything. With an old-fashioned lock like that, the only way her killer could have locked the door behind him was if he had a key, like Elliot Caves did. Caves murdered Wilson, who had seen him as he robbed the bank to pay his debts. When she arrived at the motel and saw him again, it was clear she recognized him, and her fate was sealed. Now, did anybody get that correct? My big question is, how would you know all that, right? How did we find those clues? Where did that information come from, right? These mysteries are impressive. They're fun. They encourage you to let your imagination go and expand your perception of the story at hand. Anyway, so not bad, right? So next I'm going to begin reading a mystery novel. I found that Nancy Drew, for those not familiar, Nancy Drew is a mystery series by Carolyn Keene that was written actually from the 1930s, probably into the 1960s. And the stories reflect the times. They use the technology or lack of available at the time. There is a similar series of books. Nancy Drew was very popular, still is today, actually. But there are several series of books that are like Nancy Drew. For instance, the Dana Girls mystery stories is written by Carolyn Keene, the same author of Nancy Drew. There are other mystery series that came out around those times. You've got the Bobbsey twins and Trixie Belden mysteries, and several others. There's one, Judy Bolton mysteries. Okay, a Judy Bolton mystery is very, very similar to Nancy Drew, written in a similar style, and totally reflects the times in which it was written. The author of Judy Bolton Mysteries is a lady by the name of Margaret Sutton. Okay, here is the cover of the book. This particular one, a Judy Bolton mystery. The Haunted Attic is the title of this particular book, The Haunted Attic. It's published by the same companies that published Nancy Drew, The Hardy Boys, Tom Swift, and books like that. Okay, so we will begin. Let me read the inside jackets, okay, to give you a little understanding of the series of books that we are about to begin. Keep in mind, let me tell you, let me look it up here. This particular book, hello book, come on. This particular book, The Haunted Attic, was written in 1903. 1903, as in way more than 100 years ago. 1903, more than 125 years ago, actually. Let me, as I said, read this jacket cover here. Here is a new quote, series of mystery stories for girls by an author who knows the kind of stories every girl wants to read. Mystery of the shivery sort, adventure that makes the nerves tingle, clever detecting, and a new lovable heroine, Judy Bolton, whom all girls will take to their hearts at once. From the original Dust Jacket, The Haunted Attic, the Boltons move into a large rambling house reputed to be haunted. Even the brave Judy is thoroughly frightened at the strange scrapings and tappings and the eerie crying ghost. The Vanishing Shadow is another story in the series, as well as The Secret of Sand Castle and The Search for the Glowing Hand. These are some of the early books in the series. So, who is Judy Bolton? The 38-volume Judy Bolton series was written during the 35 years from 1932 to 1967. So that is actually the same period that the Nancy Drew books were written, as well as the others I mentioned, the Dana Girls and such. It is without doubt one of the most successful and enduring girls series ever published. The Judy Bolton books are noted not only for their fine plots and thrilling stories, but also for their realism and their social commentary. Unlike most other series characters, Judy and her friends age and mature in the stories and often deal with important social issues. To many, Judy is a feminist in the best light, smart, capable, courageous, nurturing, and always unwavering in her true beliefs, a perfect role model. Who is Margaret Sutton, the author? Rachel Irene Beebe was born in Odin, Pennsylvania in 1903. Being a spirited nonconformist, she dropped out of high school, but in 1920 graduated from Rochester Business Institute and embarked on a business career until she married William H. Sutton in 1924. It's 102 years ago. Margaret was a pen name given to her by her publisher. Margaret Sutton wove many real events and places into the Judy Bolton series. Good to know, right? Okay, now there's something else about the author in here. And I will read and cut. More about the author by Margaret Sutton Hunting. My father was a carpenter, and I was born in 1903 in Odin, Pennsylvania. I was given the name Rachel Irene. My parents, Victor and Estella Beebe, sister and me to learn. My parents, Victor and Estella Beebe, were creative people who encouraged my brother, sister, and me to learn at home, as well as at the one-room school we attended. Papa wrote songs, played the fiddle and the organ, and taught us geography, history, astronomy, and the theory of evolution. Mama drew wonderful pictures and told us folk stories. We later moved to Coudersport, where I attended high school. I left home at age 16 and graduated from Rochester Business Institute with highest honors. After working a year as a stenographer, I became a printer and lived in Detroit, Chicago, and New York. In 1924, I married my favorite chess partner and poet, William Sutton, and began writing stories to please his 7-year-old daughter, Dorothy. My series began with the story of the Austin Flood, which I told to my stepdaughter and fictionalized so it wouldn't be so sad. Actually, nearly 100 people lost their lives in 1911 when the big dam broke and flooded the town of Austin, Pennsylvania. My family lived 3 miles above the dam. I read the stories aloud to Dorothy chapter by chapter, and she encouraged me to write them down. Friends encouraged me to seek a publisher, and in 1932, the first Judy Bolton mysteries were accepted by Grosset and Dunlap. And that is the publishing company that also publishes Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys and The Lot. My new publishers thought my name, Rachel, too unsophisticated for an author of series books and suggested that I use the name Margaret Sutton. We lived in Brooklyn near the New York subway, so it was easy for me to take my finished stories to the editor and meet with her personally. A good editor is a wonderful help, especially when you're first getting started. In the years that followed, each of our 5 children provided joy, enthusiasm, and inspiration. The books were all based on real events, and many of the characters were based on family members and friends. A rude neighbor or unfriendly salesperson might become a jewel thief or a kidnapper in my books. Though my membership in a guild for authors, I met many famous people, including my best friend, Helen Deal Olds, who wrote a series of career books. Many of my fans also became dear friends. One girl who wrote to me when she was 12 years old and signed herself FF for favorite fan is now writing her own series of books. Some of the students in my creative writing classes have also become published authors. I had been married for more than 40 years when my first husband died, and I became a bride again when I married Everett Hunting and acquired 4 grown stepchildren. After many years living in my native Pennsylvania, I am a great grandmother, and in between visits from my family and fans, I am writing my life story. So, are we ready? This is called The Haunted Attic. by Margaret Sutton. Copyright 1932 by Grosset and Dunlap Incorporated. The Haunted Attic, Chapter 1, in Dry Brook Hollow. Hold on. Now I'm ready. You could take a few of the pictures, Judy. You always admired them so. As she spoke, Mrs. Mead, grandmother of the pretty auburn-haired girl who knelt on the rug packing her suitcase, reached for her favorite painting. Don't, Grandma. Judy Bolton's slim hand stayed her. I want to leave this room just as it is. The walls would look so bare without the pictures. Sometimes, she reflected as she closed the suitcase and turned the key, I think it's the bare walls that make people think ghosts live in empty houses. So that's your idea of a haunted house? Judy turned suddenly to see her older brother standing in the doorway. Horace, she exclaimed. I thought you were in Farrington. How did you get here? Did you fly? I certainly did, he grinned and pointed to the window. Didn't see Arthur's Bluebird, did you? He and Lois want to take us all for a ride. Judy had not heard the handsome blue car as it drove up the Smead farmhouse and stopped before the door. Arthur Farrington Pratt, owner of the Bluebird, waited in the driver's seat, and his sister Lois leaned comfortably against the cushions in the back. Judy observed with a pleased smile that the place next to Arthur had been reserved for her. What a nice surprise, she exclaimed as she greeted them from the porch. Only you'll have to excuse my appearance. Mother and Dad have gone to shop for new furniture and left the packing to me. Just what I expected, laughed Arthur. Horace thought you might need him to help, so Lois and I hopped into the car and brought him along. Mr. Lee very kindly let him off for the afternoon. How nice of him, Judy explained, smiling at her brother, who stood beside her on the porch. He was beginning to look more and more like the big newspaper man his grandmother had prophesied he would be. Not physically big, of course, for Horace had always been slim. As a child, he had been frail and consequently spoiled, especially by his grandmother Smead. There really isn't anything you can do to help, Judy went on. Moving is hardly any work at all when you are just moving yourselves the way we are. The trunks and suitcases are all packed, and Dad and Mother are planning to have the furniture sent up from the stores as soon as the house is ready. All we have to do is take our clothes and a few things we had stored here at Grandma's. We're not taking any of her furniture? No, not even a picture, Judy replied. I guess Grandma would have given us half of her things if we had let her. She even wanted to give me the bed and dresser out of my room. Of course, I wouldn't take it. I want to keep that room just as it always was because we'll still be coming here for our vacations. Of course, Lois agreed. Judy, aren't you thrilled to be moving into such a mysterious house? More than thrilled, Lois, positively on pins and needles. You remember how we planned a ghost party as soon as we find out what it is that make people think the house is haunted? Halloween would be a good time to have it, don't you think? Splendid, Arthur agreed as he helped Judy into the car. That will give you almost 2 months to investigate. Of course, you can't make any definite plans until the ghosts have been explained. They soon will be, said Horace with a confident grin. I'm to be on the investigation committee, am I not? You and your sister are the committee as far as I can see, Arthur replied. His car was gliding along the smooth white road that curved itself down Drybrook Hollow. But how is said committee to begin this investigation? Such things must be done systematically, you know. By exploring the house systematically from cellar to attic, stated Horace in a matter-of-fact tone. Judy, watching him from the front seat, could not help smiling at his mock seriousness. There isn't much of an attic, put in Lois. I asked Kay Vinson, daughter of the former owner, and she told me all about the house. There's only a small entrance through the ceiling of one of the upstairs rooms. That kind of an attic is the most interesting of all, cried Judy. Are there any windows in it? Just holes in the gable ends, explained Arthur. Round holes like eyes. And the house is painted dark red and trimmed with black. It's a spooky looking place, but your family can soon cheer it up. A coat of light paint would work wonders on it. We wouldn't want to paint it, Horace declared. Of course not, agreed his sister. What's the use of living in a haunted house if it doesn't look haunted? Judy was looking forward to the whole adventure with eager anticipation. She was not going to be frightened, of that she felt sure. Her summer in Drybrook Hollow had taught her to face bigger things than imaginary ghosts. They had covered the 3 miles of white highway and were nearing the devastated town of Rulesville. Arthur stopped his car and leaned forward to point out the 3 great pieces of falling concrete that used to be the dam. Judy remembered a day when she had watched them with terror in her heart, believing her whole family had been killed in the flood. Judy remembered a day when she had watched them with terror in her heart. Her brother Horace remembered watching them too, seeing them as they split apart and spilled the contents of that massive concrete dam upon the helpless town, but not upon the people. For Horace, horror-stricken, when he saw the storm coming, had raced through Rulesville on the back of his grandfather's colt and warned the people before the dam actually broke. When the flood came, they were huddled together in the park, high on the hillside, safe and sound. They had begun publicity and praise for Horace and offers of money, positions, and almost anything a boy could ask for. All of these offers he had consciously refused. That is, all except Harry Vinson's offer of a house in the city of Farringdon, and Judy took responsibility for that. She had done it to help her father. Their home and all their belongings had been swept away in the flood, and Dr. Bolton faced the gloomy prospect of beginning all over again. Having a house given to them was certainly a help. At first, Horace had objected, but when he learned that the house was supposed to be haunted and that no one else would live in it, he had forgiven his sister's boldness. The idea of solving such a mystery fascinated brother and sister alike. Suddenly, Lois surprised them by remarking, "There is a ghost in that house, really. Donald Carter says he heard it talk." "Heard the ghost talk?" questioned Judy breathlessly. "He says he would swear to it," she replied. "It was about a month ago when the last family moved out. Donald and some other boys were there, and he solemnly declared he had heard something call out to them in a voice that sounded spooky enough to be a whopper of a ghost." Horace laughed, telling Lois that Donald Carter, being another newspaper reporter like himself, was good at making up stories. I wish it were more than a made-up story, sighed Judy. Plenty of people think the house is haunted, and even if it isn't, it looks spooky, and that's something. You bet, cried Horace. We'll bring the ghosts out in the air if it's in our power. Chapter 2, The Friendship Pact. All the way home, they talked over their plans for solving the haunted house mystery. Judy felt that all the strange happenings would be explained by Halloween. Even the voice, Lois. And the best part of it is that you and Arthur will be at the party. And Lorraine, she added as an afterthought. I wouldn't worry about Lorraine Lee if I were you, Arthur advised her. She's determined not to be friendly. And I'm determined to make a friend of her, Judy declared. You just wait and see. I'll believe I can. Horace agreed. He had great faith, and not without reason, in his sister's ability to do whatever she set out to do. But Arthur looked dubious. Lorraine is a peculiar girl, Judy. She never makes a new friend without some good reason. If Mrs. Lee had not been my mother's chum, I doubt if Lorraine would be friendly with us now. I think she would, Lois replied, and her eyes narrowed. Lorraine likes us for our social position. She thinks that's all there is to being nice. They had quarreled, Judy. Had they quarreled, Judy wondered. Everyone knew that Lois and Lorraine were inseparable. People spoke of them as one speaks of a cup and saucer or a needle and thread. Lois's dark eyes and hair contrasted with Lorraine's blonde beauty, making each girl more attractive when in company with the other. But lately, Lois preferred Judy's company to Lorraine's. Arthur had brought the cart to a stop in front of the Smead farmhouse, and Judy's grandmother had invited him and his sister to stay for dinner. Mrs. Smead thought it quite a privilege to entertain Arthur, who was tall and distinguished looking. His family were the Farringtons, for whom the city of Farrington was named. Judy also felt that knowing the Farrington pets was a decided asset. She fully expected to be popular at school. She was very fond of Lois and felt sure she would be equally fond of her friends. Lois Lee, the only one whom she had met, was a vision of loveliness. Lorraine's father was the editor of the Farrington Daily Herald, and Judy's brother Horace was one of his reporters. Lorraine, however, was as proud as she was beautiful. Arthur was right. It might be hard to win her friendship, but Judy thought it was well worth trying. Her Halloween party ought to help. After dinner, when Lois suggested a stroll, Judy could not conceal her pleasure. Suppose we go down in the beech grove, she suggested. That knot beside Dry Brook is my favorite nook. Wonderful, exclaimed Lois. I have a surprise for you, but it had to wait until we could be alone. There had been a frost, and the green of Dry Brook Hollow had changed to flaming red and yellow. Patches of blue sky peeped through gray-colored foliage, and leafy shadows danced in the sunshine. The girls walked on in silence, drinking deep of the beauty that surrounded them. Excuse me. My throat is getting a bit dry. I could write a poem about it, said Judy at last, But words couldn't quite say it all, could they? No, answered her friend. We just have to feel it. I hoped it would be this way. They seated themselves on a grassy knoll under a beech tree. A shower of beech nut burrs greeted them as a playful breeze scattered treasures for industrious squirrels. Suddenly, Lois said, Judy, let me take your hand. Wondering, she held it out while Lois slipped a ruby ring on her finger. Oh, isn't it beautiful? Oh, but I ought not take it, really. It wouldn't be right. It wouldn't be right not to take it, declared Lois, after I bought it for you. You see, this ring is not an ordinary gift. It's a friendship ring, because I am always going to be your friend, and you are always going to be my friend. Whenever you look at that ring, you must think of me. How wonderful. But Lois, I ought to give you something in return, so you will think of me too. That's all right, explained Lois. I have this ring Lorraine Lee gave me. That's a friendship ring too, and it's very precious. Did you give Lorraine one too? And what is it like this one? Yes, the ring was just like this, and my friendship for Lorraine means a great deal. But Lorraine's ring was stolen when someone broke into their house last summer. I wanted to get her another, but she still hopes the robbers will be caught and her own ring returned. Oh, I hope they are. It would be terrible to lose a friendship ring. Lois, did the robbers take anything else? Oh, of course. You didn't think they would break into the house just for the sake of taking our little ruby ring. No, not if they were professional burglars, Judy admitted. Tell me, what else did they take? Lois thought a moment. There were so many things. Mrs. Lee's pearls and a bracelet with small diamonds in it. There were other rings taken too, and some of Mr. Lee's lodge pins, cufflinks, and I don't know what all. Anyway, they offered $500 for the recovery of all the jewels. They must have been valuable, exclaimed Judy, and then she was silent. What an opportunity, she thought to herself. There was a chance to win Lorraine's friendship in the way she enjoyed most. But how to go about recovering lost jewels without a single clue was quite another matter. Judy, you're so quiet, observed Lois. The doctor's daughter looked up with a start. I didn't mean to be rude. I really ought to give you something in exchange for the ring. Judy fingered the necklace that she wore about her neck, small blue beads fastened together with a slender gold chain. Would this be all right, she asked. I wore them at the spelling bee when I won the prize. But Horace gave them to you. Would he like it? Judy explained that she was sure her brother would understand her reason for giving them away. It wouldn't be a friendship pact, she finished, unless I gave you something precious. Lois took them reluctantly. Then, with a penknife, the two girls carved their initials on the tree and walked home arm in arm. It didn't occur to Judy that the friendship with Lois might be her greatest obstacle in winning the affection of Lois's beautiful golden-haired friend. Arthur was all ready to leave, and he started Bluebird's motor humming as soon as the girls came in sight. We'll see you in Farringdon, he called out as Lois climbed into the car beside him. And you, Judy, Lois reminded her, don't forget to call me for Monday on the way to school. We'll both be in Girls' High. And Lorraine, too? Yes, and Kay Vincent and Connie Gray and Marge and Betty. She stopped speaking suddenly and caught Judy's hand. I meant to ask you something and almost forgot. Judy, don't tell any of the girls who gave you that ring, not any of Lorraine's crowd. You want me to promise that? Yes, on your honor. All right, Lois, on my honor. Judy answered quickly without taking time to consider how difficult it might be to keep such a promise. Okay, let's just see here. Okay, I think that we will call it a night. Well, you know what? Let's read chapter 3. Let's do 3 chapters, right? All right, chapter 3. Chapter 3, Strange Rumors. Well, began Horace. As soon as Arthur's car was out of sight around the bend in the road, I suppose we might do some more packing before it gets dark. Yes, agreed Judy. Dad will expect us to be all ready when he and Mother come home. I suppose we will start early in the morning. Seems funny, doesn't it, to be moving with nothing but trunks and suitcases? There will be a crate too, Horace reminded her. You're not leaving Blackberry behind. Indeed not. Judy caught up the black ball of a kitten and gave him an affectionate hug. He had been named Blackberry because he looked just like a round, luscious berry dipped in sugar. He was all black, but his feet and the tip of his nose. The crate was made ready, but Blackberry was not confined to it until the next day when they were ready to start. Dr. Bolton decided to make 2 trips. First, he would take Horace, Judy, Blackberry, and a couple of suitcases, also 2 brooms and a mop. Then he would come back and get Mrs. Bolton and the trunks. We're going to set you to work right away, he laughed. I haven't seen the house yet, but I talked with Mr. Vincent, and he seems to think it will need cleaning. Did you get the furniture? Questioned Judy. The idea of having all new furniture pleased her. All but your room, he applied, his eyes twinkling. I had an idea you would like to choose that yourself. You dear, she exclaimed, hugging him. Then her face sombered. Don't let me spend too much, Dad. I just want your office and your waiting room to be as nice as they were in Rulesville. You help me arrange them, he teased her, and they will be. Dr. Bolton's car, a serviceable, if not a luxurious one, was piled with suitcases and brooms. Horace playfully flourished one aloft as he waved goodbye to his mother and grandmother waiting on the porch. Grandfather Sneed called his goodbye from the fields where he was working with the team. All at once, Judy felt a sudden tightening at her throat as if she wanted to cry. We're leaving it all behind, she said. We'll come back to Drybrook Hollow to visit, Horace told her. But both of them knew that they would never come back to the devastated Rulesville and their old home that had been washed away. Most of the road to Farringdon went through sparsely populated farmland. Before long, Judy became interested in scenery and forgot to be homesick. The road was new, only completed that summer, and the car rolled along as smoothly as had Arthur's more expensive one. Gradually, townhouses began to appear, and soon, with a jolt, the car came into brick pavement and the ride through Farringdon began. The city was, as Judy had imagined it, a beautiful place. Main Street was lined with fashionable shops displaying all the latest styles. Where Grove and Main Streets met, the public square, a park with monuments, benches, and trees, gave a spaciousness to the busy section. The courthouse, a gray stone building with a steeple and a clock, stood in the center of the public square. As Dr. Bolton turned the car up Grove Street, no more shops and office buildings were to be seen. In their place were wide lawns, tall shade trees, and luxurious homes with colonial doors and brass knockers. Judy had forgotten everything else as she watched. Such splendor, seen for the first time, held her spellbound. Scenery had been beautiful in Dry Brook Hollow, but farmhouses and outbuildings had spoiled it. In Rulesville, the houses had been neat but small, and all of them nearly alike. There had been no very rich and no very poor in Rulesville. Here, however, every tree and shrub looked as if it had been placed on purpose to lend enchantment to the dwellings. Lois lives somewhere along here, remarked Horace. I knew she would, Judy answered quietly. She told me about it. Oh, Horace, is that it behind those trees? All that could be seen of the house with turrets from the street was the stone gate that marked the entrance and the three towers that just peeped over the top of the pine grove and a tall barberry hedge brilliant with berries. Nothing of the lake with swans or the fountain, but Lois had said they were there, and how many other undiscovered wonders there were, Judy could not guess. And tomorrow I'll be calling there and going to high school with Lois, she cried. I knew her home would be lovely, but I never dreamed that anything could be so marvelous as this. Yes, Horace agreed enthusiastically. It is by far the nicest place in Farringdon. The car went by all too quickly for Judy, and for a few minutes more, they drove past beautiful homes. Then, as suddenly as they had come upon beauty, they came upon ugliness. The pavement eased abruptly, and Grove Street turned and went uphill. A black, muddy road, only about half as wide, and a broken sidewalk with tall weeds almost covering it, had taken the place of the wide-paced street with a beautiful flower bed park running through the center. On the lower side of the black road was an old factory with broken windows and a caved-in roof. Just above this was an evil-smelling swamp that had been used as a public dump. On the upper side of the road, a row of houses, all exactly alike and all painted yellow, stood on a high bank, and flight after flight of rickety steps led up to them. In almost every front yard, clotheslines full of clothes, some breeze, some not so white, fluttered in the breeze. Judy set her lips tight together. She had not realized what it meant to be poor in a small city. This is what people call Upper Grove Street, Horace remarked with a grimace. Dad, we're not going to live up here. Not if I can help it, replied the doctor. Horace, can you see the numbers? We must have passed our house. It couldn't be one of these. It must be the one on the corner just before the street turns uphill. These numbers are too high. When Judy saw the house on the corner, she forgot all the ugliness they had passed, and stared in fascination. The eye-like windows in the gable ends made it look almost alive, but these two round holes were not the only things that gave it that appearance. The house was large and rambling with a wide porch that extended nearly around it. At either end of the porch, work reflected moving shadows, and a hollow tree split nearly in half, leaned towards the roof. A tall hedge, barely in need of trimming, surrounded the yard, which was overgrown with weeds. We ought to have the street, we ought to have the grass cut out and the hedge trimmed right away, Dr. Bolton remarked as he climbed out of the car. Together, they began unloading the suitcases. Blackberry's crate was hoisted onto the porch, and Judy carried the kitten inside the house. She needed no key as the door was already open. The rooms were not what one could call empty, for old newspaper magazines, leaves, playing cards, and cigarette butts lined all the floors. Blackberry was enjoying his freedom and frolicking with strips of paper. Unload these brooms, Horace, Judy called. I'll need to clear out a place to put them. Good heavens, exclaimed her brother as he appeared at the door. Isn't it awful? Never mind, his sister answered. I'll sweep it out, clean as clean can be, and make a bonfire in the backyard when I'm through. The idea had occurred to her that perhaps a person might find something in such a litter, and if there was anything to be found, she wanted to be the one to find it. Apparently, Horace had the same idea, for he insisted on helping, and now and then she noticed him cramming things into his pockets. His actions were mysterious, and he refused to tell what he was saving. When the rooms were finally cleaned, a large green coat button, a brass thimble, a stack of old magazines, and a pair of mismated gloves were Judy's reward. Hardly enough to repay her for her trouble, but she decided to keep them as possible clues. Afterwards, they made the fire, and Horace looked unusually happy as he helped. The neighbors beyond them in the row all came out on their porches and in their yards and watched the whole proceeding. One short, stumpy woman nodded vigorously to another, and both of them started in the direction of the haunted house. Dr. Bolton spoke to them kindly, but they were too excited to make any kind of polite reply. We seen you're moving in, began the older one, and figured that maybe you didn't know this house is haunted. Yes, we did know, and it was supposed to be, but we're not afraid, spoke up Horace. Not afraid, cried the other woman. Be you crazy? Why, folks have seen and heard each thing so nights. Ghosts are talking with human voices, calling hello to them what passes by, screeching and streaming and scratching and rapping. Why, we're afeared to look up at them two round windows. Ghosts rise up and out of nothing and wave their bony arms at folks. These fan bulls moored in and out of here in 2 weeks' time, and nobody lived there alone. But we've been after seeing lights flash on and off almost every night. Horace grinned knowingly at his sister, and she squeezed his hand. It is true then, she said. There will be a mystery to solve, and maybe our ghost party will be a revelation. The two old women from the row gasped, opened their mouths, but said nothing. Then they leaned and almost ran back to tell their neighbors what the strange new people had said. They were not the only callers who tried to snare away the Bolton family. Early in the evening, after the doctor and Mrs. Bolton had returned from the second trip and they had almost finished cleaning the rooms, Judy heard someone rapping. She dropped her mop and almost fell over her mop pail in a hurry to reach the door. This new life in Farrington promised all kinds of excitement. There on the porch stood three girls about her own age or a little older. Their faces were older. My mother's been telling us, began the tallest one, that you folks are either awful brave or, she said, or crazy, interrupted the youngest girl, but we think you're brave. That's nice of you, replied Judy. Won't you come in? Oh, no thanks. They seemed very much alarmed at the suggestion. We'd rather sit here on the porch if you don't mind. Not at all, laughed Judy. Maybe you can tell me some more about the ghosts who are supposed to live here. We haven't heard an unnatural noise all day, and I confess I'm curious to find out why people think the house is haunted. We were curious too, once, said the tallest girl in a hushed voice. Me and Sally and Irene started to stay here one night. Honestly, if you could have heard what we heard, but you will, she added with a wise nod of her head. Irene, the youngest one, then said her bit. I wasn't scared at first, just noises like rats, but then we heard something cry and something else call out, hello, stranger, lifelike, the way old Vine Thompson used to call out to men that went by in the street. Only it was more of a screech. All three of us heard it and we ran for dear life. I wished afterwards I had stayed long enough to see what it was. You did see, put in Sally. Didn't we all see the ghost in the attic window? Judy shivered with excitement. Oh, girls, I'm going to have such fun finding out what it is. Just wait and see. I think, ventured Irene, that I wouldn't be afraid if I were with somebody that wasn't. I'd just as soon come into your house if you were there. Well, I hope you will sometime, answered Judy. Perhaps you can help us. You see, my brother and I intend to investigate every noise we hear. You say there's a voice? Vine Thompson's voice, Sally interrupted breathlessly. It's her spirit that haunts the place, crying for revenge. Is she dead? Judy asked in alarm. Sure, she's dead. I told you that voice was her spirit. It's all very well to be brave, Sally went on. But when you're dealing with spirits, it's another matter. Things happen. What things? You disappear. Judy could not suppress a smile. It all seemed so absurd. Spirits, voices, ghosts, disappearances. Laugh if you want to, Sally retorted, but it's true. We all saw it with our own eyes. Her youngest son went into that house and he never came out again. You must have read it in the papers. Police hunting all over for him, but they can't find him. No wonder. His mother's carried him off to the land of spirits. The voice said so, and she added in a hoarse whisper, we three girls heard it. Who is this Vine Thompson? Judy asked, her curiosity now fully aroused. What? Don't you know? The three girls turned astonished eyes at her. It was fully a minute before any of them spoke, and then Irene said in a tremulous voice, She was murdered. Someone shot her. Shot her, exclaimed Judy. Was she killed in our house? Yes. And the strangest part of it is that it is her voice that has scared people away. Sometimes I think Sally's right and it's her spirit. Judy was actually trembling when the three girls left. She tossed her head and smoothed back her hair with a swift motion of her hand. She had resolved not to be frightened, and here she was, shaking like a leaf before she had even so much as seen or heard a thing. She went into the house and turned on all the lights. Everything looked warm and cheerful. They had accomplished much in a few hours. Already the place was beginning to look like home, and the new furniture was in keeping with the quiet color of the walls. How silly I am, Judy said to herself. Nothing could happen here. But when the doorbell rang, she jumped nervously and then made a firm resolution not to let anything unnerve her again. It was Irene who had rung the bell, and she was standing by the door, a timid little figure in a faded blue coat. I'm sorry if we frightened you, she said, and I almost forgot to tell you what I came to say. There's a young man boarding at our house, and he hasn't paid his bills for weeks. He asked me to see if I couldn't get him a job trimming hedges and cutting grass. He seemed very anxious to work for you. We need the money, and he needs the work, so if you would, I'll ask Dad, Judy promised, and called him in. Dr. Bolton thanked Irene and told her to send the man over in the morning. If you stay that long, the mill girl added in an apprehensive voice. Okay, I need to find a bookmark. I have one somewhere, I'm sure. Okay, so next week, next Sunday evening, we will have another little game of minute mysteries, and we'll continue reading our Judy Bolton mystery by Margaret Sutton, titled The Haunted Attic. For more information on my tours, again, like my Facebook page and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And don't forget to visit Buy Me a Coffee. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow is my next tour. Tomorrow morning, I'll be doing a very special tour at the Irish American Museum in Baltimore. It's one of 6 Irish American museums in the country. Only 6 with all the Irish Americans. Go figure. Anyway, please join me tomorrow. You'll love it. Good night.